I came home from my doctor's appointment to find my furniture on the curb and my key not working. My son stood in the doorway, avoiding my eyes. His wife just said, "We can't have people thinking we still live with a broke old man." My key. The old, worn brass key to the house I'd shared with my wife Mary for 35 years. It went into the lock, but it wouldn't turn. It just hit a solid metallic thud. Behind the new oak-paneled door, a fresh start, they'd called it last week, I could hear my son, Kevin, telling his wife to be quiet. "Brenda, don't what, Kev? It's true. We're on a different level now. We can't be dragging this around with us." This? I was this? I looked at the curb. My recliner, the one with the worn spot on the left arm where my dog Buster used to rest his head. My toolbox, a cardboard box labeled Mary, Photos. My stomach didn't drop. It just evaporated. There was a cold, hollow space where it should have been. My hands, calloused from 45 years of gripping a steering wheel, didn't shake. They felt numb, dead. "Kevin," I said. My voice sounded strange, like it was coming from a long way off. He wouldn't look at me. He just stared at the new welcome mat. "She's right, Dad. It's time for a change. We'll help you find a place." "A place," I repeated. This is my place." Brenda stepped forward, pushing Kevin aside. She was wearing a new jacket, the kind that costs more than my monthly Social Security check. Her hair was different. Her face was different. 3 weeks of being rich had erased the woman I thought I knew. "It's our house now, Frank," she said. Her voice was bright, cheerful even. "We're the ones paying the bills. We're the ones with the future. You're the past." She tossed a small white envelope on the porch. "There's $1,000 in there, for first and last on a room somewhere. Don't come back." She closed the door. I heard the click of the new deadbolt. I stood there, 11:45 a.m. on a Tuesday. The sun was out. The neighbor across the street was watering his lawn. Everything was normal, except my life had just been loaded into a dumpster. I walked to my old pickup truck, the '98 Ford I'd kept running on prayer and duct tape. I sat in the driver's seat. I didn't turn the key. I just sat. The $1,000 was an insult. The eviction was a betrayal. But that box on the curb, the one marked Mary, Photos, that was a declaration of war.
Just before you continue to watch, Joe would like you to subscribe to this channel and like this video. It would encourage him to keep his streak of thrilling revenge stories for you to watch. All right, back to the story.
It wasn't even my house. Not really. That was the part that stuck in my throat like a fishbone. It was Mary's house. She'd inherited it from her parents back in '87. When we got married, she joked about keeping it in her name, just in case you run off with a waitress, she'd say, swatting my arm. But the real reason was simpler. It was her one piece of solid ground, her anchor. When she got sick, the paperwork was the last thing on our minds. And when she was gone, I kept paying the bills. I kept fixing the leaks. I kept living in our home. I was the executor of her will, a simple document that left everything to me, and then to Kevin if I was gone. For 7 years, I'd just been Frank, living in Mary's house. 6 months ago, Kevin had shown up on that same doorstep. He'd lost his job at the plant. Brenda was crying about medical bills and credit cards. "Just for a little while, Dad," he'd begged. "Just until we get on our feet. I'm a retired trucker. My pension is fine, but it's not riches. I live check to check. Rent-free wasn't easy, but he was my son, Mary's son. How could I say no?" So I'd moved my things into the small guest room and given them the master bedroom, Mary's bedroom. For 6 months, I'd listened to them argue about money. I'd quietly covered the electric bill when they forgot. I'd loaned Kevin $400 for a car repair. I'd paid for the new water heater last month, $1,200, when they said they were tapped. Then, 3 weeks ago, Brenda bought a $10 scratch-off ticket at the 7-Eleven. $85 million. I'd never seen joy look so much like rage. She hadn't screamed with happiness. She'd looked around the small living room with pure contempt, as if it had personally insulted her. "No more," she'd hissed. "No more of this." I guess I was part of this. I ended up at a Motel 6 off the highway. The room smelled like stale cigarettes and bleach. I sat on the stiff comforter and counted my money. After paying for the room for a week, I had $4,102.38 in my bank account. I was 68 years old, and I was homeless. Brenda and Kevin had more money than God. They had lawyers on retainer. They had my son. I had an old truck and $4,000. The power imbalance was so complete it was almost funny. They thought I was just a broke old man. They thought I was stupid. Truck drivers aren't stupid. We're meticulous. Your life depends on checking the logs, on knowing the weight of your load, on keeping your receipts. I pulled out my phone and called the only number I could think of. "Legal aid for seniors," a cheerful voice answered. "Hello," I said, my voice cracking. "My name is Frank Delaney. I think my daughter-in-law just stole my house."
The legal aid office was in a strip mall between a nail salon and a check-cashing place. The lawyer, Sarah, looked about 12. She had a sharp suit and tired eyes. "Okay, Mr. Delaney," she said, pulling out a yellow legal pad. "Let's walk through this. You were living in a home owned by your son and daughter-in-law." "No," I said. I slid a file across her desk. "I was living in a home owned by my late wife's estate. I am the executor of that estate." Sarah stopped writing. She opened the file. Her eyes scanned the first page. The deed, clear as day, Mary K. Delaney, sole owner. Then the second, Mary's will, naming me executor. "They were living with you, Mr. Delaney," she said, her voice changing. The tiredness was gone. "Yes, rent-free, for 6 months. And when they evicted you, did they serve you with any papers?" "No, just a for sale sign on the lawn this morning, and my things on the curb." Sarah's head snapped up. "A for sale sign?" "A big one. Coming soon, from some high-end realty group." She stood up and walked to her computer. "What's the address?" I told her. We watched as the online listing loaded. There it was, Mary's house. 6 bedrooms, it was 3. Fully renovated. Brenda had bought new towels. Ready for a luxury flip. Listed for $550,000. "They're not just evicting you, Frank," she said. "They're actively trying to sell an asset that does not belong to them." "But they won the lottery," I said. "They have $85 million. Why would they?" "Arrogance," Sarah cut in. "They think money makes them invincible. They think you're a tired old man who will take $1,000 and shuffle off to a nursing home. They're not just greedy, they're stupid." She pointed to the computer. "That listing, that's fraud. Pure and simple. They've misrepresented ownership to a realtor. That's a crime." That's when I pushed the other box across the desk, the one I'd pulled from my storage unit, the one I'd kept for 7 years. "What's this?" she asked. "I was an owner-operator for 20 years. I kept logs for everything. Mary was the same." She opened it. It was a ledger. Every bill I'd paid on that house since Mary died. Property taxes, $24,500. Mortgage payments I'd finished off, $18,200. The new roof in 2021, $14,000. And then the second folder. "Loans," I said, to Kevin and Brenda. Every single time. August 14th, $400 for car repair, loan. September 5th,
$1,200 for water heater, loan. November 20th, $1,500 for medical bills, loan. Each one was a simple one-page document I'd printed from the internet, a basic promissory note. And at the bottom of each, Kevin's signature and Brenda's. They signed these? Sarah whispered. I told them it was just for my records, so I could track expenses. They rolled their eyes, but they signed. They wanted the money. Sarah looked at me. She wasn't seeing a broke old man anymore. Frank, she said, they didn't just kick you out. You're a primary creditor. They owe the estate a fortune. And you have notarized receipts for every cent.
The arrogance was breathtaking. That was the only word for it. 2 days later, Sarah filed an emergency injunction and a lis pendens against the property. It's a Latin term. It means suit pending. It means that house was now toxic. No one could buy it. No one could get a title. The sale was frozen, effective immediately. The blast from Brenda came an hour later. Not a call from her, not even from her lawyer. A text message to me. What the hell did you do? The realtor just called me screaming. You're trying to ruin our fresh start. You'll pay for this, you old bastard. I screenshotted it. I forwarded it to Sarah. Her reply was instant. Keep them coming. The next call was from Kevin. He sounded frantic. Dad, you have to stop this. Brenda, she's losing her mind. The realtor dropped us. She said we could be sued. She will be, I said. I was sitting in my truck in the motel parking lot. My voice was steady. Dad, please, it's $85 million. We'll buy you a condo, anything. Just undo this. You're embarrassing us. Embarrassing you? I said. Kevin, she threw your mother's pictures on the street. Did that embarrass you? She was just excited. She didn't mean, she called me a broke old man. She put me in a motel. She's trying to steal your mother's house. And you're worried about being embarrassed? It's a lot of money, Dad. It's not about the money, Kevin. It's about the house. It's Mary's house. I hung up. That night, I had my I have no options moment. Not really. It was more of an I'm in over my head moment. I was sitting in that motel room eating a lukewarm burger. I was fighting an $85 million lottery winner with a free lawyer and a box of receipts. They could drag this out for years. They could bleed me dry. My $4,000 was now $2,000. Brenda wasn't just arrogant. She was mean. She thought her money was a shield. She thought she could crush me. And that's when I realized her fatal flaw. She thought the $85 million was her power. She had no idea it was her biggest weakness. They're trying to hide the money, Sarah told me on the phone the next morning. They've opened 3 new LLCs. They're moving assets. They're thinking they're being clever. And are they? I asked. Frank, they're lottery winners. They're taking financial advice from the same people who sell them sports cars. They're leaving a paper trail a mile wide. They're not just arrogant, they're amateurs. Brenda's first official move was an insult. A lawyer, some slick guy from a firm with a marble lobby, called Sarah. He offered $25,000. A nuisance fee, he called it, Sarah told me, rolling her eyes, to make the old man go away. What did you tell him? I told him our next filing would be a criminal complaint for elder abuse, financial fraud, and unlawful eviction, and that we'd be deposing the lottery commission to find out just how many assets they'd failed to disclose. The lawyer's tone apparently changed. He said they were unaware of the estate's situation, Sarah continued, a small smile on her face. He blamed it on a misunderstanding. He asked for a meeting. He's scared, I said. He's not scared, Sarah corrected. He's annoyed.
He is annoyed that his idiot client lied to him. He's annoyed that this isn't an easy payday. He still thinks he can bully us. He still thinks you're just a truck driver." "Good," I said. "Let him." We spent the next week preparing. Sarah handled the legal statutes. I handled the numbers. I went back through 7 years of bank statements. Every dollar, every utility bill, every bag of mulch for the garden. I wasn't just the executor. I wasn't just the creditor. I was the caretaker. I had been the one to maintain the value of the estate's primary asset. The $1,200 for the water heater? That was maintenance. The $14,000 for the roof? That was a capital improvement. By the time I was done, the number wasn't just the $2,000 in personal loans. The total debt they owed the estate, and me as its representative, was $48,312, and that was before we even talked about the value of the house itself. The meeting was set for the following Tuesday, in a neutral conference room at a mediation firm. The day before the meeting, Brenda played her last card. She went public. A local TV station ran a human interest story. Local lottery winners' generous fresh start met with lawsuit. There she was, on camera, crying. "We just wanted to give him a fresh start," she sobbed, dabbing her eyes. "We gave him money to find a nice apartment, and he's trying to take everything from us. It's pure greed." They showed a picture of me, an old one from my driver's license. I looked tired. I looked like a broke old man. The phone at the motel started ringing. A local reporter. "Mr. Delaney, do you have a comment on your daughter-in-law's accusations of—" I hung up. Sarah called me, furious. "Don't say a word, Frank. This is good. This is perfect." "How is this perfect?" I yelled. "She's calling me a greedy old bastard on television." She's established a public narrative. She's on record, in front of the entire state, claiming she was being generous. She just publicly admitted she kicked you out. And she just handed us the emotional distress damages on a silver platter. She thinks she's winning. She has no idea she just buried herself.
The conference room was all glass and blonde wood. Brenda and Kevin sat on one side with their lawyer, the slick one from downtown. Brenda was wearing a cream-colored suit. She looked like she was attending a movie premiere. She wouldn't look at me. Kevin just looked sick. He hadn't shaved. Sarah and I sat on the other side. She had a stack of files. I had my ledger. A mediator, a retired judge named Harrison, sat at the head of the table. "Well," Harrison started, "this seems to be a vigorous disagreement. Mr. Davies," he said to Brenda's lawyer, "your clients are new to wealth. My client," he nodded at Sarah, "alleges significant misconduct. Where is the common ground?" Brenda's lawyer smiled. "Judge, this is a simple family dispute. My clients, in a burst of generosity, won an incredible prize. They offered to set up Mr. Delaney in a new, comfortable apartment. He responded with this frivolous lispendence, freezing the sale of their home." "Their home?" Sarah asked, her voice quiet. "Yes, their home." Sarah slid the first file across the table. "This is the deed to the house at 1140 Maple Street. Can you show me your clients' names on it?" The lawyer opened it. His smile faded. "The owner of record is Mary Delaney, deceased." "Correct," Sarah said. "And this," she slid the second file, "is Mrs. Delaney's last will and testament, naming her husband, Frank Delaney, as the sole executor of her estate." Brenda's lawyer's face went from smug to confused to pale. He looked at Brenda. "You told me the house was in your husband's name." It's the family home," Brenda snapped. "It's just paperwork." "It's not
Just paperwork, Ms. Delaney. The mediator cut in, his voice suddenly hard. It's the law. You attempted to sell a home you do not own. That's fraud. Brenda actually laughed. A short, sharp, ugly sound. Oh, stop it. We have $85 million. We're not committing fraud. We're renovating. We were going to pay him. We offered him $25,000. This was it. The underestimation. She'd just confessed to attempted bribery in front of a retired judge. Her own lawyer put his head in his hands. Pay him for what, exactly? Sarah asked, leaning forward. For his silence? Or for the $48,312 your clients owe the estate? What? Brenda's head whipped around. We don't owe him anything.
This was my part. I wasn't a lawyer. I was an accountant. My own, at least. I pushed my ledger across the table, the one I'd kept in Mary's box. This, I said, my voice clear, is the money I paid to maintain the estate. $14,000 for the roof, 2021. $1,200 for the water heater, September. $24,500 in property taxes. Then I slid over the other file, the promissory notes. And this is the money I loaned you. I pointed to the top one. August 14th, $400. You both signed. I pointed to the next. November 20th, $1,500. You both signed. In total, I tapped the final page, you owe me, personally, $2,950. You owe the estate $45,362. You've been living rent-free for 6 months in a property you don't own, all while defrauding the executor. Brenda was speechless. She was staring at her own signature on the loan agreements. This is family, she stammered. You don't charge family interest. I'm not, I said. I'm just asking for the principal. You called me a broke old man. Seems to me you're the one who's been broke. I've been floating you for 6 months. Brenda's lawyer finally spoke. Judge, this is a debt. My clients are prepared to pay this debt. $48,312. Fine, we'll write the check. Now, can we drop this ridiculous injunction so my clients can sell their home? No, Sarah said. What do you mean no? The lawyer snapped. We're paying the debt. You're not paying the debt, Sarah said. You're settling a claim. You're admitting you owe the money, but we're not dropping the injunction because you still don't own the house. The mediator looked at Sarah. What do you want, counsel? Simple, Sarah said. My client, as executor, will sell the house to your clients at fair market value. What? Brenda shrieked. We already live there. It's our house. It's an estate asset, Sarah said calmly. The listing you yourselves posted proves its market value, $550,000. So you will pay the estate $550,000. You will also pay the $48,312 in debts. And, she slid a new piece of paper over, you will pay $100,000 in damages for the illegal eviction, infliction of emotional distress, and the public defamation from yesterday's television interview. Total, $698,312. Brenda's lawyer looked like he was going to be sick. Brenda just stared. You can't. We have lawyers. We'll fight this.
Please do, Sarah said, smiling. Fight us. Take this to a jury. We'll file the criminal complaint this afternoon. We'll depose the realtor. We'll subpoena the TV station. We'll bring in forensic accountants to look at those new LLCs. You just told a retired judge that $85 million means you're above the law. How do you think a jury of 12 people who clip coupons is going to feel about that? You, Brenda whispered, pointing a shaking finger at me. You planned this. You let us move in. You trapped us. I finally looked at her,
right in her eyes. "You won $85 million, Brenda. You could have paid me back. You could have said thank you. You could have bought your own damn house. You could have done anything. Instead, you put my wife's pictures on the curb." The room was silent. That's when Kevin spoke. He'd been gray and silent for an hour. "She's right, Bren." Brenda's head snapped toward him. "What did you say?" "She's right," Kevin said, his voice quiet but firm. It's Mom's house. It was always Mom's house. And that $1,200 for the water heater? I told you we had to pay him back. You said he owed us for living there." "You shut your mouth, Kevin." "No," he said. He stood up. "No, I'm done. I stood in that doorway. I let you. I'm done. Pay him. Just pay him. I'm not going to jail for this. I'm not losing my mother's house and my father." He turned and looked at me, not at my eyes, at my chest. "I'm sorry, Dad. I'm so sorry." He walked out of the conference room. The public reckoning. It wasn't a jury. It wasn't a news story. It was my son, finally telling the truth. Brenda sat there stunned. Her shield was gone. Her partner was gone. Her lawyer sighed. He picked up his pen. "Let's talk about the numbers, Ms. Murch," he said, pointedly not calling her Mrs. Delaney, "because it seems my client," he nodded at Brenda, "is going to be writing a very large check." They underestimated me. They thought I was a retired teacher living on Social Security. Wait, that's the example. They thought I was a broke old man. They thought I'd show up emotional and unprepared. Instead, I showed up with a ledger. Too late now.
The settlement was signed an hour later. They tried to haggle. They tried to knock down the $100,000 for emotional distress. Sarah just pointed to the printout of the news article. "My client is now known as the greedy old man who sued the lottery winner. That's defamation per se. You're lucky we're not asking for $500,000. They paid. The wire transfer hit the estate account 3 days later. $698,312. Sarah took her fee, a modest one set by legal aid. I paid the estate's debts to myself for the roof, the taxes, the maintenance. The rest? It was the value of Mary's house, my inheritance. I stared at the numbers in my new bank account. It wasn't $85 million, but it was $630,000. It was security. It was vindication. It was the price of my wife's memory. I called Sarah. "It's done," I said. "The money's here." "That's not what you won, Frank," she said quietly. "You won your self-respect. You won the precedent that they can't just take from you. You won." She was right. The consequences for Brenda rolled in systematically. Week 1, Kevin filed for divorce. Her $85 million was marital property in our state. He hadn't just walked out of the mediation. He'd walked straight to a divorce lawyer. His testimony about her fraud gave him all the leverage. He wasn't going to be a broke boy toy. He was going to be a very, very wealthy ex-husband. Week 2, the realtor. The one Brenda had lied to? She was furious. Her reputation had been on the line. She told everyone in the high-end real estate world what Brenda had tried to pull. The luxury flip was dead. But the story was just getting started. Week 3, the TV station. The reporter who had ambushed me? She'd been at the courthouse when the settlement was filed. It was public record. The real story came out. Lottery liar. Winner pays $700K settlement after defrauding father-in-law. Brenda's fresh start in high society was over. She was a pariah. She wasn't the generous new millionaire. She was the greedy daughter-in-law who tried to steal a dead woman's house. Week 4. The IRS. Turns out when you start opening and closing LLCs to hide $85 million, you attract attention. Sarah mentioned she'd gotten a call from an agent just asking a few routine questions about the estate fraud case. Brenda got her house. She paid $700,000 for a house she could have gotten for free if she'd just been kind. And now she was alone in it.
I didn't stay in the motel. I took $50,000 and put a down payment on a small 2-bedroom condo in a quiet complex on the other side of town. It had a small balcony, perfect for a couple of chairs. The day I moved in, my doorbell rang. It was Kevin. He was thinner. He looked tired. He was holding a box. The one from the curb. Mary. Photos. I went back and got it, he said. It's been in my car. I didn't know where you were. I'm here, I said. I didn't invite him in. Not yet. We just stood in the doorway. The divorce it's happening, he said. I'm not taking all of it. Just enough. I'm moving into an apartment. I got a job. Back at the plant, night shift. That's good, Kevin. Dad? He finally looked me in the eye. I saw my son again. The one I had raised. The one who had loved his mother. I'm so sorry. I got blinded by the money. I was weak, and you've never been weak. I'm sorry I forgot who I was. I'm sorry too, I said. For what? That I raised a son who could stand in a doorway and watch. He flinched. He deserved it. But he nodded. Yeah. Me too. I'm gonna work on that. Can I call you? Sometime? You know my number, I said. I took the box of photos from him. Thanks for bringing this, Kevin. Yeah, I'll see you, Dad. I watched him walk away. It wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't a happy ending. But it was a start. It was support from the one place I thought I'd lost it forever. I went inside and opened the box. The first photo on top was of me and Mary on our wedding day. She was so beautiful. I had spent months fighting, months of stress, months wondering if I was doing the right thing or if I was just being vindictive. But I had won. Not just the money. I'd won my life back. I'd won the knowledge that I wasn't a broke old man. I was Mary Delaney's husband, and I had protected her legacy. Was it worth it? I looked at her smiling face. Yeah, it was worth it. These days, I wake up in my new condo. The sun hits the balcony. I make coffee just for me. It's quiet. No one texts me asking for money. No one calls expecting me to solve their problems. No one makes me feel guilty for existing. I took some of the settlement money and bought a new truck. Just a sensible new Ford. Nothing flashy, but it smells like a new truck, and the key works every time. I joined the local VFW, play cards on Thursdays with a few other guys. One's a retired plumber, one's a retired cop. We talk about pensions and grandkids and the price of gas. We don't talk about $85 million. I ran into Brenda's lawyer, the slick one, at the grocery store last month. He saw me in the produce aisle and actually nodded. "Mr. Delaney," he said, like I was an equal. "I hope you're well." "I am," I said, picking out a tomato. My former client, she's a piece of work," he said, lowering his voice. "Sued me, for malpractice. Thinks I should have gotten her out of it. And got thrown out of court."
She's finding out that $85 million doesn't make you smart or liked. He gave me a small, respectful nod. Have a good day. That was better than the money. That was vindication. That was being seen. Kevin calls me every Sunday. We talk. It's stiff. It's awkward. We talk about the weather. We talk about his job. He's paying his own rent. He's making his own meals. He's 42 years old, and he's finally growing up. Maybe we'll be okay. Maybe we won't. But he's trying. Last week, I put a chair out on my balcony. I sat there as the sun went down. I had a beer and looked through the backs of Mary's photos. I wasn't just a man who'd won a battle. I was a man who'd learned that family isn't an obligation to be abused. It's a privilege to be earned. I'd spent 40 years keeping my logbooks clean. I'd spent 7 years protecting my wife's home. It turned out, all that time, I was just keeping the receipts. I thought about Brenda, alone in that big, empty house she'd paid a fortune to steal. I didn't feel anger. I didn't feel pity. I didn't feel anything at all. That was the real victory. I was free. I was at peace. And I was never, ever letting anyone call me a broke old man again. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to like this video, comment, and smash the subscribe button. Also check out other videos on the channel. Joe's got more interesting stories for you.